President Obama and U.S. allies negotiating Friday over imposing a new round of sanctions against Russia. President Obama stressing the need for new sanctions on a call with U.S., French, UK, German, and Italian leaders. So far, no specifics on when those new sanctions could be implemented. For U.S. allies, it's a sensitive calculation because broad sanctions could end up hurting European economies as well. Joining me now with more analysis is University of Chicago economist and former chairman of President Obama's Council of Economic Advisors, Austan Goolsbee. Thanks for joining us, Austan.
Thanks for having me.
So when we look at the possibility of additional sanctions, what kind of weapons do we still have in our arsenal there?
Well, a lot of it depends, as you indicated, on how much pain are we the West, willing to endure ourselves to incur perhaps more pain on them, and that's not decided. I think it could be influenced quite a bit by what the U.S. was able to do in terms of exporting our own natural gas. But I think the dynamic that you're seeing at play here is really going back to kind of a Cold War mentality of it's trying to show, the Russians trying to show our half of the Ukraine is doing better than your half. And so I think it's made tough for Russia being downgraded the way they were for their own bonds. They're going to have to keep coming up with money to subsidize Eastern Ukraine so that it looks better than Western Ukraine, and that's going to get real expensive.
Now, Austan, right now it looks like the U.S. and allies are eyeing targeted sanctions against individuals and companies. Why is there so much hesitance to do a broader sanction, something that targets a sector of Russia's economy?
Well, sometimes it's hard to say exactly what the reluctance is. I think with any kind of sanctions, you got to take one step back and say, are we able to comprehensively interfere with the trade, investment, or whatever there might be in that country? So if a lot of the trading partners are not embodied in the group that would be applying the sanctions, then you can see the sanctions don't really have much impact. They just divert who they do their trade with. So I wonder if it has to do with that. The other thing it might have to do with is simply that if you look at Europeans, there are a lot of European countries that are in a tough spot already. And so they say, wait a minute, let's not do anything to make our economies worse.
And I think we've already seen some of our allies in Europe saying, okay, I'm open to some sanctions against sectors of the economy, but let's just not sanction any sector of the economy that impacts me. I mean, if you're one of these countries that's, say, in Eastern Europe and you're dependent on Russian gas exports, what's at stake for you?
There's a lot at stake for you, though I'm sure all of those countries are of two minds. You know, I wrote a few weeks ago in the Wall Street Journal that I actually thought, despite having been a rather public skeptic about the survivability of the Eurozone, that maybe the Russian actions in the Ukraine had given a new lease on life to the Euro area, because a lot of these countries that are in the European Union that are on the periphery there are former Eastern Bloc nations. So yeah, this will have some negative impacts on their economy, but at the same time, they got to look at what's happening in Ukraine and be feeling very nervous about, well, geez, you know, what if Russia decided that they wanted to expand and started getting their eyes on our own territory? Certainly the Baltics are thinking that way, and all around the Black Sea, they got to be thinking the same thing.
All right, Austan, we're going to leave it there. Thanks very much for joining us.
Yeah, great talking to you.